Let's get started. First of all, I'd like to welcome Ramona Reno, the Executive Director of the Reentry and Recovery Program. I've known Ramona for many years, mostly as her friend and fellow Christmas cookie baker, but I also know her for her passion and compassion in helping ex-offenders and people in recovery. It's amazing what you can learn while mixing dough. She loves, you all know Ramona and how passionate she is about this work. So please join me in welcoming Ramona Reno. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. Kathy, thank you. She is the ultimate baker, I'll tell you. We're going to be baking cakes and decorating them really soon. So this morning, before we get started, I just want to take a few minutes to thank everyone for coming and also thank my wonderful team. I have some of them here now. Mona, I have people that are here on my team now and people that have been on my team that have moved on. So I want to just get a chance because they're a part of this. This has been an initiative we're working on for 7 years. So I would like them to stand just real quick and get some acknowledgement. We have Melinda in the back filming. Thank you, Melinda. We have Mona. Who's now with Yoga. And we have Dawn. Where is she, Dawn? Dawn also. I'm here today about all of them helping us, but also I really have a special thanks to Steve Truman and Dave Gadare for putting up with my craziness because I'm always thinking outside the box and I'm a big picture person. They're always like, oh, come back down here, come back down here. And I have a hard time coming back down when I have an idea. And luckily, we've been working with the Sheriff's Department for 20 years. And in those 20 years, we've seen thousands and thousands of ex-offenders. And 85% of them have substance use disorder problems. And that was the motivation. Another motivation I had for really talking is that I've been a job developer working with a lot of employers across the Hampden County area, and I can't tell you how many times employers got up, closed the door, sat down and said, my son has a problem, do you know where I can get some help? And they whispered behind the closed door. The hardest thing has been, I've lost a lot of our customers that we serve and that we don't take lightly. Sometimes it's rapid fire, we'll have 3 or 4 or 5, and I shouldn't even say that, but between the substance use disorders and gun violence, we lose a lot of the people that we work with. It's really hard seeing a young man or young woman at our desk one day, happy on the job, doing really well, and then has passed away overnight. So it's really important. MassHire has taken this very seriously. 4 years ago, we had someone in our bathroom that overdosed and we were not prepared, and right after that we got Narcan training. We had 28 people served in Narcan training, and I'm happy but sad to say that we had someone overdose in our alleyway and we had Narcan. We were able to save their lives because we were trained and had an understanding of how to use it. So I really want to, it's the Hampden County, MassHire's Hampden County Workforce Board, a lot of credit for, and Steve Truman especially, because I drive him crazy. But he knows it comes from a good spot, and Dave, So this morning we'll show you a really short video. Dana is from Chameleon Company out in New Hampshire. He was part of our focus group. We had a focus group we were working on for 3 years, and because he had done it in New Hampshire, he actually was nice enough to do this little presentation for us for our marketing of it, because he really talks about what his journey has been like as an employer and as a recovery-ready workforce.
Thank you for listening. It's a very important message. Next, I'd like to introduce our sheriff, Nick Kochi, Hampden County Sheriff. Sheriff began his career as a seasonal correction officer in the Hampden County Sheriff's Office in 1993 when he was 8, working his way up before being elected sheriff in 2017. The sheriff has expanded programming in so many different areas, taking the opiate program head on. And in doing so, he started a medication assistance treatment program for people battling addiction and opened a substance use disorder treatment facility to help people involuntary committed by the courts. Some of you may hear a little bit about this morning. The sheriff also has a presence in communities they serve, engaging in a variety of ways. I've had the pleasure of participating in those initiatives, whether it's the Safe and Secure Youth Initiative, the basketball program, mentorships, and even last night, Ed Case, along with some other organizations, led a bingo night for families, where over 60 families attended. I know because we bought the dessert. Thank you, Sheriff, for all you do for youth and families and those incarcerated. Please join me in welcoming Sheriff Nick.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you. And I usually applaud when people give a little bio because it's not about me. Everything you heard is about the staff. All the staff at the Sheriff's Office that do this work each and every day. That's what I'm so proud about. I just happen to be a person that gets to get up there and speak on their behalf. I actually wrote for, very rarely do I take prepared remarks. But when I was looking at what today is all about, it is this important to communicate what I think is important and why I am so grateful to be here and speaking today and speaking to you and having each of you in this room, because that was a great film. But next year we got to have somebody from Western Massachusetts on that film, not somebody from New Hampshire.
That's the plan.
And that's our plan, and that's why it's so critical we're here. So good morning. I'd like to first thank all of you for having me here today to discuss this very important topic of recovery-ready workplace. I want to begin with commending each and every one of you that are here for the progressive and forward thinking of workplaces needing to be recovery ready. This is where we need to be with all that's taken place with the epidemic and the trial and tribulations that face so many people and so many of our friends and family members. Please keep up the great work. Madam Secretary, it is so great to see you here today. I just want to thank you for your commitment and your support. The Executive Office of Labor Workforce Development, under your leadership, has done phenomenal work. And hopefully you're going to see today that we want to continue these relationships, continue showing these initiatives, because there's so much more work to be done. The great city of Holyoke couldn't be better, in any better hands on Beacon Hill than my two good friends, State Senator John Velas and State Representative Pat Duffy, both such huge advocates of MassHire Holyoke and Springfield. We have, is Trish here? Where's Trish? Hi, Trish. Trish, you know, I look at from the housing management resources, how critical housing is, and we'll get into the three-legged stool and reentry. You can have a job every day of the week. If you don't have a place to go home to, very unlikely you're going to get to that job 3-4 weeks down the road. So I want to thank you and your staff for everything that you do to continue to be a partnership here. Well, we look at, you know, as we were saying, we have a partnership with MassHire, you know, for over 20 plus years. And Dave Goodere, the president and CEO of MassHire Holyoke, has been a dear friend of the Sheriff's Office. I give credit to my predecessor, Sheriff Mike Ash, who, in my opinion, and it's just not my opinion, it's an opinion around the country, is probably the godfather of modern day corrections. He saw, as a social worker coming in, the importance of taking the anger and the whiteness out of the knuckles of people that came to us that used to grab the bars on the cells and diffuse that and release the cell bars and start to get into classrooms and educate our way, because you'll never jail your way out of any problem.
Exactly.
But you could educate your way out of just about every problem.
Exactly.
So David, I want to always thank you for stepping up, and you know, and Ramona says that she's a pain in the rear end sometimes, but so aren't we, because we keep asking and asking for more and more, and you keep delivering. And we keep asking for more and more financial support, and you find a way to deliver. So thank you both for that. You know, and then Kathy, I'd just like to thank you and the Holyoke Medical Center for all that you do for the struggling population of people. You know, keeping up the great work and your partnerships are crucial in making this initiative successful. And to Stevie, I've known Stevie for many, many years. Quite frankly, I know his family, and the fact that he is spearheading what he does every day, I just don't understand how somebody from that family came out and has that much influence on the employment side of things. We're so proud of you. You're the best. And lastly, Ramona Reno. You are without question the most passionate and genuine human being I've ever met. Your commitment to the people you serve is unmatched. You not only talk the talk, but every single day, Ramona, you walk the walk. And you know, I started back as a correctional officer. Then I went into training department, and the sheriff had this bright idea at the time to put me in charge of a reentry center. I had no clue what I was doing, but it was the best move I ever made, because I got to meet Ramona, and we started to talk about the work that needed to be done, and how were we gonna take inmates, not clients, not residents, they were behind the bars, medium security. How are we gonna take them outside the facility every day to job search, to be job ready, to sit in interviews? And we figured it out. And it wasn't easy, but Ramona, I have to tell you, your passion, your tenacity, your conviction to what you do is the reason why, okay, the sheriff's office is where it is, and is, I would like to say, is advanced we are in helping people get employment when we go back to the streets. So thank you so much. You know, it amazes me that we have come so far when we discuss substance abuse disorder and stigma. But we got a long way to go, as you just heard on the video. But at least we can all agree that there is still stigma associated with substance use disorder. And that's the first major hurdle in trying to eliminate it. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's keep it on the forefront. You folks are on the forefront of this every day. Evidence-based treatment is a major part of our correctional model at the Hampden County Sheriff's Office. Why? Our current stats show that 85%, as Ramona said earlier, of all of our inmates report dealing with some level of substance use disorder. Around 40% of those that are specifically opioids, but alcohol still this past year was the #1 reason why people needed to either go get some services and help or are spiraling. We offer medication-assisted treatment to our clientele as well. We administer the 3 FDA-approved addiction treatment drugs, including methadone, Subutex, and Vivitrol. Since our MAT program started at the Sheriff's Office in September of 2019, we have served over 3,300 clients. Wow. 3,300. Most of our clients in the MAT program are ages 25 to 34. Think of that, 25 to 34. And the next greatest group is 35 to 44. The Hampden County Sheriff's Office runs the largest MAT program in the state for individuals who are in a jail or prison. Just today, we dosed 322 people. Our count is 900. Over a third of the men and women are receiving some level of MAT. Beyond corrections in the incarcerated population, we have our Section 35 Civil Commitment Treatment Center, the Stony Brook Stabilization and Treatment Center. We have a 156-bed facility with an average daily population of 118 in that building. The average stay, now listen to this, is 57 days. Not 11, not 14, not 20, 57 days with no financial hardship to the family. Right. That burden falls back on the state, but what we're proud about is in the 57th day, we feel that we've not only got you in a place where you can start to understand what your issues are, understand how to deal with the druthers in the when you get back to the community, the drawing back into the criminogenic factors that put you in trouble in the first place, being on the same street corner, the same pressures, the same bad phone call, and you want to self-medicate to make the pain go away. So when you look at 3,000 clients on MAT, 2,743 administrations of the medication-assisted treatment, these individuals are coming back to our community, and they need to be back in the workforce. Right. That's why today, in my opinion, is so important. That's why it's critical that we all get on the same page. Right. Last year, we brought over almost 5,000 people through the doors of the jail. Wow. Some were there for a day, some were there for a week. The average stay is 9 months for a man. It's 4.5 to 5 months for a female. Wow. When you're away from your job that long, you don't go home to a job. But what we just heard is we have to have some level of preparedness for people leaving incarceration to go back and attain some level of employment. Many of our justice-involved individuals, it was substance use that led them down the path of criminal behavior and ultimately to the jail. It is our responsibility to treat them, much in the same way a plan is developed, as you heard on the screen just a moment ago, in battling more socially accepted diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. We too have to give our clients a scientific and evidence-based treatment plan to fight this disease. When society begins to understand that substance use disorder is a disease like any other, then hopefully the stigma will continue to diminish, and hopefully that happens rapidly. As employers, it is also important that we understand that relapse is a part of recovery. But if you can educate yourself on disease, and you can be on this disease, and you can be part of someone's recovery as their employer, you are beginning to recognize that certain incidences that can occur, as you heard on the screen again, you can see someone's bad day. You can see if they come in and they're struggling. You can intervene immediately and put those catch basins in place. I always refer back to the game of Chutes and Ladders. There is no reason in today's day and age, with all the great work that's being done in our communities, that someone has to almost be there or be in recovery for an extended period of time, have a bad day, a bad phone call, a relationship breakup, or whatever it may be, and they have to slide all the way back down to the beginning of the game, the basement. We have got to build in catch basins where if someone trips, we pick them up, we dust them off, we get them right back into treatment, right back into employment, right back into So just switching gears, I want to just discuss our job training and employment readiness initiatives. And again, thanking the staff at the Sheriff's Office. I look at Rich, I see Danny here. Who else am I missing? I'm just looking over here, and I see some others that are here. But these are the two men, along with their staff, that really drive home this particular 4-phase model, along with Ramona. The Sheriff's Office has developed an extensive employment model to focus on job readiness, placement, and retention through a gradual, supervised, and supportive 4-phase process. Ramona, you played a huge part in this. You've helped us develop this many, many years ago. Phase 1, offenders create an employment portfolio that includes a replacement social security card. Yep, Zenaida, you've been a big part of this. This is a big part of what you used to do with us. A birth certificate, which are not easy to get, especially right now in Puerto Rico. I was ready to fly somebody out to Puerto Rico, sit down with somebody and say, look, be my friend, I'll be your friend, and let's make this happen. We finally got a channel in, and it's working well. Any of the awards and certificates that they earned, a resume for them to start using, and they also enroll in educational and vocational services. Phase 2, it covers interview techniques, computer searching, network skills, and mock interviews. Phase 3 includes assessment and job matching to begin the job search. And Phase 4 stresses job retention through targeted triage for both the employer and the employee. We have a retention specialist on staff that goes around and checks in just to keep our clients honest. We're checking in, but more importantly, it also shows the business that we're at. We didn't just leave you. Our hand's still on our client's shoulder, and we're here to support you to make sure that the person's being a productive person in your workforce. We offer a wide range of vocational skills training. For example, culinary arts, construction, painting, landscaping, welding, custodial maintenance, graphic arts, and repairing and upholstering furniture. We have actual factories within the walls of both the main institution and the Women's Western Mass Regional Correctional Center, where we provide real-world job opportunities for offenders while producing goods and services that save institutions in the community thousands of dollars. We have certificate programs and offer OSHA 10, 279 to date, ServSafe, 155 to date, precision machinery and blueprint reading. We also operate the Old Armory Grill, a cafe in Springfield, as well as 2 fully functional staff grills at the main institution and the Women's Correctional Center, which offer the offenders real-life work experiences of dealing with people, the point-of-sale system, and understanding how it is to correctly take an order and then deal with somebody when the order's not good, because our staff are not easy and have to get into a little bit of the banter and how to handle yourself. We have averaged 400 job placements per year for the past 15 years, with over 10,000 former offenders placed since 1989. Today, employers are having a harder time filling positions, as you just heard on the screen, more than ever. And compared to pre-pandemic levels, the Hammond County Sheriff's Office has recently seen roughly a 3-fold increase of the amount of people who are looking for support with workers. So we've gone from 20 to 25 businesses per month looking for people, to 60 to 70 per month post-pandemic. That's how much people are looking to get people into the workforce.
Amen.
Why does there need to be such a focus on employment? Because a job is a purpose. We do not look at this teaching somebody a skill but we rather see it as providing them an opportunity, hopefully an opportunity to someday come work for some of you. We know that if someone has a good job, then they have a sense of purpose. If they have a job, they can afford good housing and reliable transportation. If they have a job, a house, and reliable transportation, they begin to feel part of the community. They feel part of something greater than themselves. They are more likely to go to their community meetings, their doctor's appointments, get their medication-assisted treatment. They will continue to take their recovery serious. Employers have an opportunity to give someone in recovery a meaningful purpose, and that purpose will go a long, long way in their recovery. Finally, one thing I do want to touch upon here is that when we talk about supporting employees in recovery from the sheriff's office perspective, is beyond just those justice-involved individuals or those civilly committed to us. We can't just talk the talk, we have to walk the walk. We have a fundamental responsibility to our own staff to care for them as well. There's not probably a month that goes by that I don't have to put somebody on my staff into a rehab program. I don't know if anyone saw what happened to John O'Brien on Rock 102, but it was disgusting. Somebody who puts their hand up for help should not be dismissed from the job based on their needs. So the first thing we do, and we'll have staff that if they do something very egregious, and they'll come in front of us and they're probably gonna get terminated. And then they'll put their hand up saying, but I have a problem. If in fact there's a problem there, that could be the main reason for the behaviors. And so what we do is we put a pause on any decision when it comes to terminating an employee. We pause it, we treat, we welcome back, and you give it another chance. But then you put ownership. But then you put ownership back to them. That's the key piece too. Part of recovery and part of being supported and having a foundation to be successful is also having the ability to take ownership and responsibility in moving forward. Working in the field of corrections is challenging, demanding, and stressful profession. Correctional professionals are more susceptible to anxiety, depression, and PTSD. And unfortunately, reality is that those risk factors become substance abuse disorders. The Hampden County Sheriff's Office needs to be a recovery-ready workplace for our employees as well. I'm committing that to this group today. Our staff are not only immune to the challenges of life, and it is very important for us to acknowledge, educate, and support our own staff on both sides of recovery. I want to thank you for having me here today. I truly look forward to being not just a partner, a very big partner in helping this initiative continue to move forward. Have a great day.
Thank you, Sheriff Poetry, for the kind words. I really appreciate it. We're going to move around in our schedule a little bit, and I wanted to take a moment to have the employers come up that have one at a time and that have agreed to be a part of the Recovery Ready Workplace and receive their certificates and say a few words. So with that, I'd like to have Trish Leonard, the senior so much for your commitment.
Hi, my name is Trish Leonard, and I am a woman in long-term recovery. There was a time when I only said that in the basement of some churches and a few special clubs. But I am gratefully, I'm also a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a sister, friend, and I have a son in recovery that struggles with addiction. And I'm also the Senior Vice President of Housing Management Resources, which is an affordable housing management company that employs over 300 people.
Wow.
I'm very fortunate to work with people that, in an organization whose values and support a good work-life balance. Because of my experiences, I think we brought some of those things into the conversation. And I worked, and again, I worked for a company prior to this where I experienced stigma. And I was there for 16 years, and there were a lot of people who didn't know that I didn't drink. I was very careful about who I gave that information to, because I would be excluded from things.
Right.
I was afraid of how people would treat me. It would make them uncomfortable. But in this organization, we've brought that, and time too, I think, has changed the stigma a little bit. It's not gone. And as time moves on, we've created some programs and processes to be able to be open to people who are in recovery, to have people come back to talking about the pathways back from issues that have happened at work and how to get them in. And we're resistant to drug testing that's really pushed by the insurance companies to start your hires that everybody needs to drug test. People who are in recovery aren't necessarily, it's not, as the sheriff said, alcohol is the biggest problem. We're not drug testing for alcohol. So that, it seemed very much that, that didn't make good sense for us. So we've, Natalia, our HR director, and other leadership have really worked hard to develop programs to figure out what to do coming back and how to make it happen. And we figured those out. Many people have been successful. Some of those things are, part-time work, shorter hours, opportunities for people to go to programs and do things that they need to do to take care of themselves. I'm very grateful. I've been nagging. I've been part of this with Ramona for a while. We've talked about it for a long time. And I've been nagging her for probably a year now, maybe a couple, like, can I sign it? Can I sign it? Can we name it and claim it and have something that we can really say to people so that they understand what's happening in the organization? Because we have 300 people. There's a lot of people that may or may not believe that this is the right way to act. And we want to make sure that everybody understands it and knows that there's a way out and up and to continue to grow within the organization. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here and to get to sign the pledge. And I can't wait to advertise it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trish. This was part of our focus group. We've got a lot of value into what we're doing along with many other employers that we've reached out to over the last 2 years. I'd next like to have David Gudera, the CEO and President of MassHire Holyoke, receive his certificate.
I'm going to be very brief, because I think Nick took all the words. But actually, really, I want to thank Ramona and Mona and the entire team. This has not been an easy task. This has been an act of love. I think it's been an act of sincere importance. And for us, we have some pretty core values around equity and inclusion. And in my mind, what Data talked about on the video about making sure that everyone who is qualified to work with us has a chance to work with us, and we have a chance to keep them as long as we can. There's many staff here and many former staff. We try to create a family, and in a family we hope that when somebody comes with a concern or a problem, we give them the same dignity and respect that we would any other person with any other issue. So for us, this is frankly just good business. This is about retention of good employees. It is about growing our programs, but it's also about giving back to a community that has given us so much. So we're thankful, we're grateful. I'm honored to be a part of this. I'm excited to have a plaque and a pledge and I can sign. The pledge was a little daunting when I read it. It was like, how am I going to do all that? But we have a great team and we're excited. So I just want to say thank you, and I'll sit down and shut up.
Thank you, Dave. Our next employer is Roca. We have Solomon Bayam.
brief also. So grateful to be part of such a great initiative. We support staff and young people that deal with challenges of substance abuse daily. Addiction has a tremendous impact on our society and our workforce. Roker's current policy incorporates many of the key pieces of this initiative, such as recovery coaches and incorporating substance abuse in our Healthy Habits curriculum. We are very supportive of the recovery community, and we will ensure that those struggling are offered understanding and support, and will help those in long-term recovery be empowered, offering their talents and skills at work without fear, shame, or stigma. Again, grateful to be a part of such a great group providing needed support. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for sharing your stories as well. Tricia, thank you for that. I think those types of stories are the things that help break down stigma. So we really appreciate you being honest and sharing. Next, I'd like to introduce my friend and our state rep, Pat Duffy. Typically, the hierarchy is the senator would go, but he always defers to her. Always. He is. So, State Duffy, I'm sorry, State Duffy. Representative Pat Duffy represents the Massachusetts 5th Camden District, which consists of Holyoke, and now will be expanding to include Chicopee, Ward 3B, in January of 2023. Representative Duffy has been involved in many important initiatives in Holyoke. She was a longtime board member of Nueva Esperanza, which serves South Holyoke. She's also had been appointed to the city's redevelopment authority when it was first started, and served on that committee for over 10 years, and a few of those years as the chair. And I know that because I started the redevelopment authority for the city, and recruited Pat to come on, which she added so much. The urban renewal plan was about what type of public investments the city needs to make to spur private development and improve quality of life in neighborhoods. Representative Duffy served right up until she was elected a state rep. She's also a member of the parade committee. Congrats on such a successful parade this past weekend. Rep Duffy also currently serves on the House Committee on Global Warming, Climate Change, Joint Committee on Cannabis Policy, Joint Committee on Healthcare Financing, and Joint Committee on Higher Education, Joint Committee on Veterans and Federal Affairs. Please join me in welcoming Representative Duffy to say a few words.
Thank you, Kathy. It's great to be here in a room with many friends and just great community members. As lawmakers, I love how Ramona phrased this and framed this as, she's someone who has big ideas, and as lawmakers, that's what one of our most important roles: taking big ideas and finding the people who can really make them happen, like get down into the nitty-gritty and really implement the policies that we think are the most important ideas. That's why I think this is probably one of the most important rooms I could possibly be in. Because there's employers here, there's folks helping people where they're at. There's the movement to helping people be everything that they want to be and being a productive part of our communities. So I really just want to say that, in government, what we're supposed to be doing is supporting public service. What's more important than education?
Right.
What's a more important aspect of education than workforce development? And I'm just really proud to be here in this room where you all are making it happen. If there's a persistent problem, if we hear that employers are having trouble hiring folks, if we see that there's a pandemic and people are struggling, then we need to go to the people who think outside the box. And that's you, Ramona. So thank you so much. And anything that we can do in the legislature to support you.
Thank you, Representative Duffy. Next, I'd like to introduce Senator John Velas. Senator Velas represents the 2nd Hampden District and Hampshire District in the Massachusetts State Senate, which includes the city of Holyoke and 10 other communities in western Massachusetts. The senator is the chair of the Joint Committee on Veteran and Federal Affairs, vice chair of the Joint Committee on Mental Health and Substance Use and Recovery, and the vice chair of the Joint Committee on Children, Families, and Persons with Disabilities. Senator Velas is an attorney, a veteran, thank you for your service, and a major in the U.S. Army Reserves. Prior to his election to the Senate, he was state representative for the 4th Hampden District. During this time in the legislatures, he's helped to secure state funding for substance use treatment and workforce development programs throughout Western Mass. And I'm sure one of his proudest moments, the senator is a fairly new dad to an adorable little boy who is 4 months.
Good morning, everybody. What an honor to be here. You know, the whole letting the house. So I was in the house first, and I'd like to think it was because I'm a gentleman that I do that. But we all know all the money bills originate in the house. You gotta keep the house happy. What an honor to be here today. Such an important, critical topic. MassHire, Secretary Costa, Sheriff Cochee, so many other people, all these various employers that came up here, friends in government. So when I first got elected to the House of Representatives, I remember we were in a caucus, which is nothing more than a grouping of Democrats and Republicans talking about the orders of the day and what you're going to be voting on. We were taking up a substance use disorder bill, and there started to be some pushback on the cost of it. And at the time, the Speaker of the House was Bob DeLeo, and he said, all right, I want to do something here. And he said, I want you to raise your hand right now if you don't have a family member, a friend, or someone in your inner circle who's not affected by this addiction crisis that we have going on here. And as I'm sure you can imagine, not a single hand went up in that room. I think the most important thing that I can say here today, as somebody who is in recovery, who knows this battle, I think all too well, who deals it on a daily basis, is that for the employers here, and again, speaking through the lens of that lived experience, I don't think you're gonna find more beautiful and special human beings than people that are in recovery. I just don't think you're gonna do it. I remember when I first, I've been doing this thing for about 5 years now. And one of the funniest things for me was initially, when I started that process and I was hanging out with a bunch of new friends in recovery, I went and I watched a Patriots game. And I said to myself, I'm looking around and nobody's drinking beers, no one's doing anything. And I said, wait a second, you can actually watch a Patriots game and not drink beer? and it really hit me, like this recovery thing is such a special thing. To the employers, I can say to you with absolute certainty that, I could sit here and name stats. I could talk about loss of production. I could sit here and talk about absence in the workforce. I could sit here and talk about workplace accidents, all of the things that happen with people who are dealing with some type of substance use disorder, and echoing what the sheriff said and others about alcoholism. Alcoholism, in my humble opinion, is far and away the biggest issue right now in this realm that we are dealing with. There's any number of reasons that you should do the right thing and take this pledge. But really the main important reason, I think, is because you're not gonna find a better group of people out there. People that live a life based on principles like honesty. People that live a life on principles just doing the right thing. I joke around, when I was joking around because when I was a state rep, let's just say I hadn't discovered the light yet. And I was a pretty good state rep. And then I've embraced this way of life, and I'd like to think, and Sheriff Cochee, do not say a thing, that I'm a really good senator. And it's just the type of thing that again, it's the right thing to do, but you're not gonna have better employees. That's just the reality. You're not gonna have better employees. Again, honesty, things like that. And I guess I'd just speak to one thing in the stigma realm. Stigma is a really big deal. But it's a really big deal in so many different facets. So the other day, I've really embraced this line of work, very candidly speaking. I enjoy recovery and addiction and working with folks really a lot more than I enjoy my day job. Please don't repeat that, media, please don't say it. It gives me, there's nothing better than helping somebody out in a common struggle, a common peril, something that has also impacted you. So I've really kind of done a lot of digging and due diligence on meeting with subject matter experts. So the other day I had a big round table of folks that I think are widely considered the foremost authorities in this realm. And one of the individuals who couldn't come to this was a doctor by the name of John Kelly. John Kelly is an addiction psychiatrist at Harvard, and he is the author of an opinion that came out, a study rather, that came out in 2020 regarding Alcoholics Anonymous. And essentially what this study showed, this professor as well as a professor from Stanford, is that AA, far and away in terms of abstinence and keeping people in remission, is the best thing out there. But he just came out with another study that I think is really relevant to this group right now. And it's about the different types of stigmas. And what he talked about is we need to be very careful in how we talk about folks who are, we'll say have a substance use disorder or an alcohol use disorder. And one of the reasons, he said, has to do with this audience, has to do with employers. And he was talking very specifically about the disease model. And what he said was that, and they did all of this polling and all this data, stuff that's way over my head. And what they showed was that if you refer to addiction as a disease, which make no mistake about it, it certainly is. But if you refer to it as a disease, it's going to elicit sympathy. You're going to get a lot of people who want to help you, but where it can hurt you, and again, this is all data backed, is in the employment realm.
Right.
And the thought process was, what their data supports is that if you refer to it as a disease, an employer might come out and say, not might come out, did come out and say, well, if there's a disease, it might not ever get better. And we don't want to take that chance and hire that person, which I thought was absolutely fascinating. So stigma is multifaceted, and there's so many dimensions to it. And for the people in this room who are involved in this, really take a look at it, because I think we need to be very careful in all of things. Because, and I'll finish with this, what all of us know who are part of recovery, who work with people in recovery, is that not only can you get better, but when you do get better, you are going to be hard pressed to find a better human being in this world. And ask anybody in recovery if I'm lying right now, I guarantee you, they say the exact same thing. But just a real honor to be here. We go to a lot of events in my line of work. A lot of them are kind of boring. A lot of them are a waste of time, let's be honest. But every now and again, we come to an event where there's an organization and there's a process in place where people are trying to do the right thing and trying to help fellow human beings. Because I suggest to you all that at the end of the day, in my line of work, the sheriff's line of work, MassHire's line of work, and housing people's line of work, we're all trying to do the same thing, which is make life a little bit better for fellow human beings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator, that was amazing. There's no better way to invest in your employees, and you'll have them in return for you for a while, I'm sure. Now the woman of the hour, Secretary Acosta. I know there's been some great speakers, but you've come a long way. Secretary Acosta is the Secretary of Labor and Workforce Development for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. In her role, Secretary manages the Commonwealth Workforce Development and Labor Departments to ensure that workers, employers, and unemployed have the tools, training, and safety resources needed to succeed in the Massachusetts economy. Secretary Acosta also chairs the Workforce Skills Cabinet alongside the Secretary of Education, housing and economic development, which is an extremely important group. I remember when they were started, that group came together under some of the Gateway City stuff. She has been named one of Boston's most influential women by the Women of Harvard Club and El Planeta's top 100 influential Hispanics in Massachusetts. Secretary Acosta is no stranger to Holyoke and visits here quite frequently. And Secretary, we welcome you to once again and ask you to come up and share with us today. Interesting fact, which some of you may know, that she played on the women's varsity hockey team.
That's all people care about.
Yep.
I challenge any of you to remember anything she just said. The only thing you will remember is that I played ice hockey, and I dare not get on skates today because it would be quite embarrassing. So I gotta tell you that Holyoke is not a new place for me. I had the honor of joining the Bacon-Police administration about 5 years ago. And I actually have been coming to Holyoke a lot longer than that. My very, very good friend, which some of you in this room may know, Dave Glidden, and I are good friends. And Dave introduced me to Holyoke. As you know, Dave is the son of Holyoke, and he could not be prouder of this city. And I crossed paths with Dave because I was working in the private sector before I got here, and I worked at TD Bank. And I had one of my responsibilities was the office here in Springfield. But I was in Holyoke a lot also. So my roots to Holyoke are way back. And one of the things that I remember thinking back then, and you all continue to reinforce, is that Holyoke delivers. And you deliver more than any community, to be honest with you. I go around the Commonwealth and you guys deliver. When there's a hard problem, when there's a tough problem, this community gets together and you figure it out. You figure it out because you have people like Ramona, you have people like Dave, you have people like Steve, you have people like the sheriff, the senator, the rep. You guys know where to go. You guys know where to go for resources. And you know what? You guys got big arms and big family here. So coming from a large family, being Cuban, I really love this, that you guys embrace each other. And there couldn't be a more important time to do that than right now. Here we are sitting here maskless. COVID is over, by the way. Did anybody get the memo? It's like the light switch just, unfortunately, really heartbreakingly, Ukraine happened, and now COVID is off the airwaves, and all of a sudden COVID's gone. Like, nobody cares about COVID anymore. I can't even find news stories about COVID anymore. And here we are, and I've been now almost every single day for the last 2 weeks in meetings like this. Everybody's back, and thankfully so. But we're back in a different way. We seem to be different creatures than we were. We are embracing this. We love seeing each other. We see each other. We hug each other. We're so happy. But you know, we talk about substance abuse, and that has increased dramatically during this pandemic. The behavioral health issues and the mental health issues that come out of this pandemic that maybe have been sort of simmering on the surface before the pandemic, because this isn't new, right? But they have just like skyrocketed because that real feeling of isolation and that feeling of disconnect. You know, we're humans by nature. We're social creatures. We need each other. We need to touch. We need to feel. We need to hug. At least Cubans do. And if you don't have that, you start kind of retreating into yourself, and then you start questioning your self-worth. Then your confidence goes, and then you start thinking, maybe I should have that glass of wine. Maybe I should have that bottle of wine. Maybe I should have another six-pack, and maybe I should have the drug of choice. That stuff is poison to our community, but it's the substitute when we fail to provide the services that are really necessary. And we have, coming out of this pandemic, a behavioral health crisis. That is our biggest crisis, and probably our most long-term, most dangerous to everything, to our family unity, to our society, to crime. to workplace, to our economy. This is the challenge of our lifetime right now, and we've got to get that right. I know that the Senate President is very much passionate about mental health issues. The governor is extremely passionate about mental health issues and is filing another health care bill to really address this. It's really important. We can't walk away from this because all of the things that you guys are talking about today, the substance abuse issue and trying to bring employers back to the table and give more latitude and more compassion, this stuff is not going to go away, and we really need to deal with it. I mean, for anyone that is looking for behavioral health services right now, guess what? You can't find it.
Right.
You can't find it. The waiting lists are ridiculous. People have, and workers have dropped out of the workforce. Clinicians have dropped out of the workforce because of burnout. So I would say that is, for me, as you know, as I'm trying to develop workforce programs, that's my number one problem right now. That and housing.
Right.
That and housing. Housing, you cannot, right? You cannot. And I look all over the Commonwealth. There is not one place that has resolved this housing problem. Housing is too expensive. I've got 5 kids, and all 5 of them are looking to leave Massachusetts because they can't afford to be here. The governor has 3 children. All 3 of them live out of state because they can't afford to live in Massachusetts.
Wow.
What happens as we all age? I mean, there's a lot of young people in here, but there's some of us that are, going to age out at some point. But what happens as we all age and our young people are not here anymore? I don't care how good your job is, you're not going to find anybody. You're already having that problem.
It's true.
Because people are retiring early. So we're seeing a lot of stats, and I look at stats all day long. It's one of my favorite things to do is look at numbers to make stories out of it and then make good policy, right? That's what we have to do, data-driven stuff. And I look at the number of folks in our labor force and what's happening to our labor force, and I'm a little frightened about the ability to attract talent to Massachusetts because of our high cost of living here. And I'm a little nervous about what has happened with this pandemic of people dropping out of the workforce. So we've got 250,000 job openings right now in Massachusetts. We've got 180,000 people unemployed at the moment. So that math doesn't even work, right? So our unemployment rate is 4.8% right now. Here it's much higher. The problem is that when we look at unemployment rates, the definition of unemployment is you look at who is eligible to work, who's working, and who is looking for work, but looking for work only within the last 4 weeks. So that's called the U3 unemployment, if you want to get nerdy. The problem with that is that there are a whole bunch of folks that have been looking for work for 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 24 weeks, right? And they're not counted. So the real unemployment rate is over 9%.
Right.
All right, so let's not get fooled by these. And as unemployment rates drop, it's one measure of many. So don't get all excited about unemployment. Because the real measure is, are people going to work? Are people of all walks of life able to get a job? So we know really well here that the pandemic has exacerbated inequities in our workforce. You talk about stigma, I consider that a bias, right? Bias, discrimination, that's all there. So the pandemic has really hit our Latino community and our Black community super hard. Super hard. Why? Because leisure and accommodation, food services, those are and women. Women have been just pummeled by this pandemic. And I'm nervous as a woman that has been fighting for the last 30 years to make sure that we have some equity in the workforce. I'm nervous that we're going back. And I don't want that to happen because I'm too tired to keep, for another 30 years to do this and keep fighting and bringing that boulder uphill. So we have to be really cognizant of all of those factors. And I love that the employers are here at the table, and I really thank you, because honestly, without you, I can't do a thing. I can't do a thing. Every single training grant that we put out there needs an employer at the other end, because the last thing we want to do is just train for training's sake. We want an employer to be at the other end and employ folks, and you want it too. You know, as I look at the, you know, the things that we're trying to do to encourage employment, you know, we have a ton of pipeline programs that Ramona and Dave are working with, and the whole team. MassHire Holyoke team, fantastic. I mean, you guys really are amazing, and this work cannot be done without you guys are there every single day, and you know the things that you're dealing with in your community. When you talk about Narcan, and when you talk, I mean that's going above and beyond a workforce development program, but you guys are there for the community. It really takes an entire community to deal with all the things that all of the obstacles. But you know, the employer community, as I'm speaking to so many employers, and we look at the moment that we're in right now, we really do have to meet the moment in terms of looking at how we're looking for workers, because the traditional ways are not going to work anymore. And if your job descriptions are constantly saying that you need a BA, that you need 15 years of experience, that you're gonna not fill that job. If your job is unfilled for 6 months and over, you gotta think about your strategy. Do something a little different. No, and I do, and I talk to employers. I had the same job open for 10 months, 11 months. I'm like, oh my God, well, what does that job description say? And where are you looking? Who are you working with? What are you doing? And if you're just looking at, you know, hires from, you know, the Ivy League schools, and you're not talking to community colleges, you're not talking to vocational schools, then you're missing out on a whole population. And oh, by the way, if your job description says you need a BA, and you stick it in Indeed or Monster, then if you don't have a BA, you don't even get to look at that resume. You're completely zeroed out. So we have to get creative. One of the most creative things I saw just recently, I was mentoring a young man, and he has a ton of experience he's very young, he's in his late 20s. But his various experiences in customer service type work, and doesn't really know what he wants to do. We sort of honed in on, well, maybe it's banking, just because I know a thing or two about banking. I said, let's just look at some banking jobs in local areas. So I started looking with him, and one of the banks I thought was just kind of ingenious. They had all their postings. They had 50 postings of people that they're looking for, but then they had a posting that said future worker opportunity. I'm like, what the heck is that? So it's like, what is that? And the job description was, if you're ambitious, if you have a good work ethic, if you believe in the values of our organization, apply here. If you don't see yourself in any of the jobs in this description, apply here. I'm like, wow, what a great idea. So basically what they're saying is, we're just looking for talent. We're looking for a human being that breathes, that can come to work, that can show up, that can learn. We don't know where you fit. You don't know where you fit, because you probably know nothing about banking. But what a terrific idea. We're just looking for talent. Talk to us, we'll figure this out. Because I'm sure you have transferable skills.
Wow.
What a terrific idea. So I share that with you just because I never thought of that. And it struck me as, that's a pretty damn good idea. We should do that. We should all do that. Maybe we should all do that.
Right.
And see what happens. And then tell me about it. Because I'm sure you're all looking for workers, right?
Yeah.
You're all looking for somebody, right? You can't find them, right? Right. So I will tell you that yesterday we announced a brand new program. I don't know if any of you heard of it. But the announcement was about a program that the governor announced, along with the lieutenant governor and myself, called Hire Now. And Hire Now is we're putting $50 million of ARPA money into this. Thank you, Rep. Thank you, Senator. And we're putting $50 million into this program to any employer, for profit or not for profit, and we will give you $4,000 per employee that you hire, flexible dollars. It sounds too good to be true, but I swear to God it's true. You can use the money for training. You can use the money for a signing bonus. You can use the money for a retention bonus. You can use the money for tuition reimbursement. You can use the money for whatever you want, as long as it's legal. And the only thing you have to do is keep that employee for 60 days. You have to retain the employee for 60 days. You have to be an organization in good standing. You have to not owe any unemployment taxes.
Right.
And if you meet those minimum requirements, go register right now. mass.gov/hire now. We've launched it yesterday. We have 100 companies already in the system with a promise to hire 1,500 employees. I think this is great for nonprofits. I think this is great for small businesses. I think this is great for, we've heard over and over and over the challenge of training people. What I want this program to do, whether you're small, whether you're medium, whether you're big, whether you're profit or not-for-profit, what I want this to do is to inspire companies to hire people with no experience. The banner on this for me is hire now, no experience needed. That's the banner for me. Because I want to encourage employers to hire people with substance abuse problems, people with disabilities, Black and Latino folks that maybe you haven't thought of before, people outside of the normal catchment of employees. I don't want people going to their golf buddies, club and saying, do you have a son that that's not what I want this to be for people that have no experience and that don't see themselves. We launched this yesterday at a lab in Cambridge, it's called Lab Central, and they do a bunch of startups for new science, new medicine. They have biotech, biomanufacturing, and we launched it there. And one of the things that we know that young people or people that have been in other professions, they don't see themselves in STEM, right? They don't see themselves in those sciences and those, because guess what? It's a very white community and they don't see the diversity. So if you don't see diversity, how do you get to aspire to be there, right? So we got a lot of work to do when it comes to diversifying our workforce in the good, high demand jobs. And that's what I'm hoping that this program will at least begin to spur. So that was yesterday, but the work that you are all doing here with this recovery program is, it's so necessary. These are folks that, for whatever reason, went down this path. Doesn't mean that they're bad human beings. As Senator Vela said, they're probably the best human beings you'll probably ever meet. And we have a real responsibility as a community to make sure that we continue embracing everybody in our community. That's the only way that we move forward as a civilized and prosperous community, is if we do that. So I am very proud of the work you all do here. Kathy, Ramona, David, Steve, Senator, Rep, we can't leave while I'm talking. It's just sneaking out, But anyway, I don't want to belabor this, but I am really thankful for being here. I love being in Holyoke. I probably have visited Holyoke 20, 30 times since I became Madam Secretary, and I still have until December to keep coming back. So thank you all, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got it.
No worries to you. I should say that Holyoke Medical Center we've had, huge shortages in staff, especially with nurses right now, and they just launched a program where we're gonna give nurses $50,000 if they sign up right out of college, no experience. They've got their practicums and things like that. And if they stay with us, I think it's 4 years, they can keep that money and put it towards their college education, so. The other thing is the hospital's right now in the middle of doing our community health needs assessment, and I've interviewed Representative Duffy and Senator Vilas and probably many of you in this room. And we're doing a survey, and it's really interesting. I've done 3 parts to this community health needs assessment. Basically, hospitals do that because cities can't deal with the health challenges and social determinants of health things that community space alone, and so the hospital helps with those things, with programming and resources and, you know, doctor's hours and nurses and people in the community doing education, and so we're right in the middle of doing this, and the things that are rising to the top are substance use disorder, mental health hugely with children and seniors, and many of the other things that we talked about today, especially food security. You know, I'm on many food security. Rep Duffy leads a group monthly. Is it monthly or every other week?
2 weeks.
Every other week. That's right, every other week. And it's been going on since the pandemic started. And we talk about that it's not about it's everyday food now. It used to be food shortages, but now it's like everyday food. And we do a community dinner twice a month at the hospital. We give out 120 meals. People drive up to the front of the hospital. We stick the meals in their car. And it used to be 50 to 70 people, and honestly, we're seeing a ton of senior citizens now. They're afraid to go to the store still, and you know, it's just the security and food is huge. So in closing, I want to thank everyone for being here today, and Ramona's going to come up and thank everyone. David, thank you so much for giving people the latitude in your organization that you do to think outside the box. Ramona is like one of those, you know, those little puppets in a box that you definitely can't keep in that box. And there's definitely a hole for her that just keeps coming out. So, and lastly, you know, I was on the governor's, it's called the Economic Assistance Coordinating Council, where when companies want to get a tax increment financing, a TIF, to move their businesses to the state or to the city, you know, I would listen to employers that would come before that council and say, we're doing this creatively, we're hiring students. There was one business up in Franklin County, I specifically remember, I think it was biochemistry, and they were taking kids from high school and bringing them in, training them while they were there, and would pay for their college if they came back to work for them. And you know, as I listen to everybody here today about substance use and those types of things, maybe we could start looking at and encouraging businesses to think outside the box and try to help people with substance use disorders and come before this Economic Assistance Coordinating Council saying what they're doing to help people in recovery. So with that, Ramona, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Just a few closing comments. I won't keep you much longer, but after I'm done, if the employers that receive the recipient would come up and we can sign the contract and take some pictures, that would be great. Again, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. In my nervousness, I forgot to thank one of the most important people in my life, who's been for 20 years putting up with my craziness. He's put up with me giving his clothes away and then coming to the event and saying, I have a shirt like that. I'm like, well, you did. I was at AISS graduation. I gave away a bunch of clothes because guys needed some dress shirts, and my husband happened to come with me and said, hey, that's my shirt too, isn't it? So Steve, thank you so much. I love you. Tape measures. 35 years later, he's still losing stuff. It's all for a good cause. So thank you. There's an interest form on your table if you're interested in getting more information on how to become a recovery-ready workplace. Just you can fill it out and leave it at the desk there. Also, our website is launched. We have a lot of resources on our website. We spend a lot of time trying to have it at your fingertips. So please check out our website if you need something there. Part of the process is you don't just sign up. We don't just go away because, like she said, like a whack-a-mole, I'm gonna keep popping back up. We're gonna come back in, we're gonna help train your staff. We have customized training for supervisors and how to roll it out, and a whole plan to work with employers to help them have the resources. And we're able to do that because we have a lot of community partners that have offered their services. People often question as to why workforce development is so in recovery, like you're not treatment providers, what are you doing? I've always had a holistic approach to everything I do, and getting people a job is not just the beginning and the end, it's like how do you support them before, during, and after. So, since 85% of our people that we work with has substance use disorders, and it's not just the people, there's a lot of grandmothers, aunts, uncles, brothers and sisters that I have counseled and helped over the years who are taking care of the children while their parents are incarcerated. So there's a lot of wraparound service that are needed, and being involved in our community of Holyoke and Springfield and surrounding areas really helps that. So thank you so much again for coming. I really appreciate all your support.